Imagine a wooden aircraft, engine off, gliding through darkness, carrying 800 kilograms of bombs. Radar doesn't see you. The enemy doesn't hear you. Only the sound of wind rustling against your aircraft's wings. Then you drop the bombs and escape. Every night, 8 to 15 times. This is what female pilots did in 1942. But why did history forget them? June 22, 1942, Rostov Front, North Caucasus. German soldier Oberfeldwebel Hans Müller is trembling inside the trench. He hears a sound in the darkness of night, but not an engine sound, a sound like fabric rustling in the wind. Then, silence. Then, explosion. By dawn, 12 of his comrades are dead. None saw the enemy. No radar gave warning. Müller writes in his diary, "The witches are real, and they're hunting us." This is the story of the 588th Night Bomber Regiment. The story of how Soviet female pilots created Nazi Germany's most terrifying nightmare with wooden aircraft from the 1920s. Soviet Union. Marina Raskova was the country's most famous female pilot. She was 26 years old and had broken the 6,000-kilometer record with her Moscow Komsomolsk flight. Soviet propaganda had declared her a hero. Even Stalin knew her. But Marina wasn't just interested in breaking records. In the Soviet Union, women were theoretically equal. But in practice, there was no place for female pilots in the Air Force. Marina wanted to change this. War began in Europe. Nazi Germany invaded Poland. The Soviet Union was preparing. Marina wrote a letter to Stalin. In the letter, she requested permission to establish an air regiment composed of women. Stalin's response was cold. "Can women fight? Show me proof." Marina gathered hundreds of female pilots who thought like her. Most came from aviation clubs, glider schools. Some were only 17 years old, but they all wanted the same thing: to fight for the motherland. June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa. Nazi Germany attacked the Soviet Union. 3.5 million German soldiers, 3,600 tanks, 2,700 aircraft. In the first 24 hours, 60% of the Soviet Air Force was destroyed. The Soviet Union was desperate. It was recruiting soldiers from everywhere. Marina went to Stalin again. This time the answer was different. "All right," said Stalin, "form 3 regiments from women. Show me what they can do." October 1941, Engels Air Base, Saratov region. Marina Raskova gathered 400 female volunteers. Their ages ranged from 17 to 26. Most were university students, teachers, factory workers. The Soviet Air Force gave them permission to form 3 regiments: 586 Fighter Regiment, Yak-1 Aircraft, 587 Bomber Regiment, PE-2 Bomber Aircraft, 588 Night Bomber Regiment, PO-2 Aircraft. The commander of the 588th Regiment was 27-year-old Major Yevdokia Bershanskaya. She was a quiet, disciplined, cool-headed leader. She would command throughout the war and manage her regiment without losing more than 1,100 missions. But the real shock came when they saw the aircraft. The PO-2 Polikarpov aircraft was designed in 1928. Wooden frame, canvas covering, maximum speed, 120 kilometers per hour, ceiling altitude 3,000 meters. No weapons, no armor, no radio. This aircraft was used for agricultural work, crop dusting, mail delivery. It wasn't a warplane. The pilots were shocked. Some cried. "Are we going to fight with this toy?" asked young pilot Nadezhda Popova. Major Bershanskaya responded, "This toy will hit the enemy from where they can't see it, and you will do exactly that." Training began, but conditions were harsh. Winter was minus 30 degrees. The aircraft were open. The cockpit wasn't enclosed. Wind and cold cut their faces. They had no gloves because they needed to keep the control stick sensitive. Frostbite formed on their fingers. The female pilots were given male uniforms. The boots were 3 to 4 sizes too big. The women wrapped rags around their feet to fill the boots. The parachutes were too heavy, but no one complained. May 1942. The 588th Regiment was sent to the front. Their first mission was in the North Caucasus. The Germans were trying to secure rear lines while advancing towards Stalingrad. The women went on their first bombing mission at night. Darkness, wind, enemy lines. No one knew exactly what to do. But they knew one thing. There was no turning back. First night. First mission. Female pilots are boarding Po-2 aircraft. The engine is running, but the noise is weak. This aircraft looks like a toy compared to German Messerschmitts. But this very weakness will become their greatest weapon. But how? The tactics of the 588th Regiment weren't in any Soviet Air Force manual, because these tactics were developed by the women themselves. Here's how it worked. Step 1. Flying in darkness. Po-2 aircraft took off at night. Missions were generally between 2,200 hours and 400 hours. If there was no moonlight, only stars. Pilots flew with compass and intuition. Step 2. Low-altitude German radars could detect targets above 1,000 meters. Po-2 aircraft flew at 500 to 800 meters altitude. Sometimes they descended to 200 meters, low enough to touch the treetops. Step 3. Turning off the engine. When approaching the target area, the pilot would turn off the engine. The aircraft would begin gliding, silent, like a ghost. Only the sound of wind hitting the wings could be heard. The Germans called this sound Nachthexen, night witches, because the sound was like broomsticks flying through the air. Step 4. Dropping the bombs. When the pilot reached above the target, she would manually drop the bombs. 100 to 200 kilogram bombs, sometimes smaller. But the effect was significant. The target was usually ammunition depots, fuel tanks, command centers. Step 5. Quick escape. As soon as the bomb dropped, the pilot would restart the engine. The aircraft would quickly turn and escape. By the time German air defense understood what happened, the women were already gone. In one night, a pilot could fly 8 to 15 missions. Each mission lasted 20 to 40 minutes, non-stop until dawn. June 1942, the 588th Regiment's first month. Over 400 missions. The Germans were trying to understand these attacks. German intelligence first thought they were Soviet bomber aircraft, but there were no radar records. No aircraft could be detected. Then, a Po-2 aircraft was shot down. Pilot Katya Ryabova and navigator Vera Bellick became targets of German artillery. The aircraft crashed to the ground. Both died. The Germans examined the wreckage. They were shocked. Wooden frame, canvas covering, no weapons, no armor. And in the cockpit, female corpses. The German commander wrote in his report, "The Soviets are sending women to war. Their aircraft are 20-year-old agricultural machines, but effective. We can't sleep at night." The Wehrmacht began taking special measures against the 588th Regiment. More air defense guns, searchlights, night fighter aircraft. But the women adapted. Tactical change, triple attack formation. Po-2 aircraft began operating in groups of 3. The first aircraft would approach the target area and attract searchlights to itself. The second aircraft would silently approach the target and drop bombs while searchlights searched for the first aircraft. The third aircraft would wait as backup. This tactic drove German defense crazy. When they turned lights in one direction, the real attack came from elsewhere. August 1942. The Battle of Stalingrad is beginning. The bloodiest battle in the world. The Germans are doing everything to capture the city. But at night, female pilots are bombing German lines every night, non-stop. But who were these women? Why were they doing this? Nadezhda Popova. 852 missions. Nadezhda Popova joined the 588th Regiment at age 19. She came from Donetsk. Her family had been killed during the German occupation. She wanted revenge. Nadia flew 852 missions during the war. A record. No male pilot had flown this many missions. One night, her aircraft was riddled with 42 bullet holes. The engine was damaged, but Nadia brought the aircraft back to base. She was wounded, but had completed her mission. On another mission, her aircraft was caught in searchlights. German artillery opened fire. Her navigator, Katya Ryabova, was killed. Nadia brought the aircraft back alone. After the war, Nadia said, "Weren't we afraid? Of course we were afraid, but the feeling of revenge was stronger than fear." Yevgenia Zhigulenko, the shot-down pilot Yevgenia Zhigulenko joined the 588 Regiment at age 20. She was cheerful, energetic. Her friends called her Little Devil. During a night mission, Zhenia's aircraft was hit by a German fighter plane, Messerschmitt Bf-109. It was 5 times faster than the Po-2. Zhenya dropped the bombs before falling. She parachuted out. Her navigator also jumped. Both survived, but where they landed was 15 kilometers behind German lines. Zhenya and her navigator walked at night, hid from German patrols. After 3 days, they reached Soviet lines. Her first question was, "When will my aircraft be repaired?" Irina Sebrova, 1008 missions. Irina Sebrova was the 588th Regiment's pilot with the most missions, 1008 missions. At the beginning of the war, Irina's fiancé was killed, fighting against German tanks. Irina vowed to avenge him. One night, Irina's aircraft caught fire. The wing was burning. But Irina didn't panic. She landed the aircraft. Both she and her navigator were saved. The German soldiers felt 2 emotions when talking about the night witches: fear and anger. Fear because the attacks were unpredictable. Radar didn't work. Searchlights were insufficient. Night fighter aircraft couldn't catch the Po-2s because the Po-2 was too slow. The Messerschmitt Bf-109 would fall when it reduced speed. The Po-2 was already flying slowly. Anger, because the attacks were carried out by women. Nazi ideology viewed women as weak, but now weak women were killing German soldiers. A German pilot had written in his diary, "These women are braver than us. They're shaming us." The Wehrmacht tried to develop special tactics against the 588th Regiment. Night fighter aircraft constantly on patrol. Air defense guns increased, searchlights multiplied, but none worked completely. Because Po-2 aircraft were below radar, too slow, too low. German technology couldn't stop them. Also, the women flew non-stop. Every night. Sometimes 15 missions until dawn. Wehrmacht soldiers' morale was breaking. A German soldier had said in a letter to his family, "We can't sleep at night. The witches are coming." Stalingrad fell. The Germans are retreating. But the war isn't over. The 588th Regiment will fly from the North Caucasus to Poland, from there to Germany every night, every mission. But what is the cost? The 588th Regiment lost 32 pilots during the war. A total of 80 women died: pilots, navigators, ground crew. Every loss was trauma, because the women weren't just comrades in arms. They were friends, sisters, family. Masha Dolina's story. Masha Dolina was a young pilot. She was 21 years old. Beautiful, cheerful, everyone loved her. One night, Masha's aircraft didn't return. Search teams were sent. The aircraft wreckage was found. Masha and her navigator were dead. The regiment mourned, but missions couldn't be stopped. The next night, they flew again. Major Bershanskaya collected Masha's belongings. Inside was a letter, written to her mother, never sent. The last line of the letter, "Mother, don't be afraid, I'm happy. I can do this for my motherland." Polina Gelman's survival. Polina Gelman was one of the 588th Regiment's luckiest pilots. She flew 860 missions, never got shot. But one night her luck turned. Her aircraft was hit by German artillery. The engine died. Polina made a forced landing, 5 kilometers behind enemy lines. Polina and her navigator hid from German patrols at night, slept during the day, walked at night. After 4 days, they reached Soviet lines. The first thing she did when she returned, request her aircraft. Olga Sanfirova, surviving hero. Olga Sanfirova flew 630 missions. She survived the war, but her body was full of wounds. One night, her aircraft was on fire. Olga didn't parachute out because her navigator was wounded. Olga landed the aircraft. Both she and her navigator survived, but Olga's legs were burned. Doctors wanted to amputate her legs. Olga refused. "I'll fly again," she said. After 3 months, she recovered. She flew again. After the war, Olga said, "I didn't feel the pain. I only thought about completing the mission." August 1942, February 1943, Battle of Stalingrad, the bloodiest battle in the world. 2 million people died. The 588th Regiment played a critical role at Stalingrad. Every night it was bombing German lines, fuel depots, ammunition stockpiles, command centers, bridges, railway lines. The Germans couldn't transport supplies because female pilots were hitting transport convoys. A German officer wrote in his report, "Soviet female pilots are paralyzing our logistics." After Stalingrad fell, the 588th Regiment was sent to the North Caucasus. Objective: accelerate German retreat. In the Caucasus, the 588th Regiment experienced its most intense period, 18 to 20 missions per day, sometimes non-stop. For the Soviet Army is advancing to the heart of Nazi Germany. The 588th Regiment is on every front. Poland, January 1944. The 588th Regiment was on duty near Warsaw. Objective: collapse German defense lines. Mission numbers were increasing, 15 to 18 missions per day. Pilots were tired, but had high morale. In Poland, local resistance groups supported the 588th Regiment, provided target information. Female pilots were heroes saving Polish civilians. East Prussia, October 1944. East Prussia was Nazi Germany's fortress. Resistance was strongest here. The Germans were defending every inch of land. The 588th Regiment flew its most difficult missions here. Air defense was intense. German fighter aircraft were constantly on patrol. Losses were increasing, but the women didn't give up. Missions continued. One night, 3 aircraft were lost. None returned. 6 women died. The regiment was in deep mourning. But the next night, they flew again. Toward Berlin, April 1945, April 1945. The Soviet Army is approaching Berlin. The 588th Regiment is preparing for its final missions. Near Berlin, the women bombed German defense lines, bridges, railway stations, ammunition depots. April 30th, 1945. Hitler committed suicide. May 8th, 1945. Germany surrendered. The war was over. The 588th Regiment ended the war with these records: 23,672 missions, 30,000 tons of bombs dropped, 3,000 plus German soldiers killed, 30 pilots received Hero of the Soviet Union title, 32 pilots killed. May 9th, 1945. Victory Day. Celebrations in Moscow. Parade at Red Square. The 588th Regiment returned from Berlin to Moscow. Major Bershanskaya gathered her regiment for the last time. "Girls," she said, "we won the war. But now a harder battle begins: surviving in peace." Nadezhda Popova returned to civilian life after the war. She became an aviation school teacher, but no one knew she had flown 852 missions. Yevgenia Zhigulenko became a flight instructor. She taught young pilots, but she didn't talk about the night witches because no one was interested. Polina Gelman became an engineer. She worked on the Soviet space program, but she hid her past because the Soviet Union began to forget female warriors. Propaganda highlighted male heroes. Women fell to the background. The truth history forgot. In the 1970s, Western historians discovered the 588th Regiment. They were shocked. How could such an important unit have been erased from history? Interviews began. Surviving pilots told their stories for the first time. Nadezhda Popova, in an interview in her 80s, said, "We didn't fly for heroism. We flew for the motherland. But history forgot us because we were women." 2000s, remembrance. In the 2000s, the 588th Regiment was rediscovered. Books were written, documentaries were made, monuments were erected. Russia issued a postage stamp in honor of the 588th Regiment. Swedish metal band Sabaton released the song Night Witches. It told the story of the 588th Regiment. Millions listened, but most importantly, young generations learned about the Night Witches. The 588 Regiment was forgotten by history, but today it's being remembered. So what do these women teach us? The legacy of the 588th Regiment cannot be measured only in numbers. Yes, 23,672 missions were flown. Yes, 30,000 tons of bombs were dropped. Yes, 30 pilots became heroes of the Soviet Union. But the real legacy lies in these questions. 1. Can women fight? In 1941, Stalin had asked this question. The answer was given by the 588th Regiment. Yes, and better than men. Female pilots flew more missions than male pilots, had fewer losses, showed higher morale. Why? Because women knew they had something to prove. 2. Does technical superiority always win? German Messerschmitt Bf 109, metal body, 600 kilometers per hour, radar supported. Soviet Po-2, wooden body, 120 kilometers per hour, radar invisible. On paper, the Germans should have won, but they didn't, because the 588th Regiment turned the Po-2's weaknesses into strength. Slowness equals Germans can't catch. Wood equals radar can't see. Silence equals psychological warfare. 3. Where is courage found? Nadezhda Popova was asked in an interview, "Were you never afraid?" Her answer, "I was afraid every night." But fear didn't stop the mission. Courage is not fearlessness. Courage is continuing despite fear. The 588th Regiment did this every night for 4 years. 4. Who does history remember? The 588th Regiment was forgotten for 50 years. Why? Because they were women. Soviet propaganda highlighted male heroes. Women remained in the shadows. But today, the night witches are remembered, because true heroism eventually comes to light. Nadezhda Popova, 1921 to 2013. Nadezhda became a flight instructor after the war. She married, had children, but every night she dreamed of the war. In her 90s, she gave an interview for a documentary. Her last words, "I have no regrets. I did it for my motherland. I would do it again." She died in 2013. At her funeral were old comrades in arms. All were elderly, but all remembered those days. Irina Sebrova, 1914 to 2000. Irina flew 1,008 missions. After the war, she became an engineer. She worked on the space program, but she didn't tell anyone about her past. In the 1990s, when the 588th Regiment was rediscovered, interview requests poured in. Irina initially refused. "It's in the past," she said, but then she accepted, because she understood that young generations needed to know. She died in 2000. In her will, she had written, "I want to be buried next to a Po-2 aircraft." Yevdokia Bershenskaya, 1913 to 1982. Major Bershenskaya commanded the 588th Regiment throughout the war. She never lost more than 1,100 missions without losing women. There were losses, but minimal under her command. After the war, she retired. She lived a quiet life, but every May 9th, Victory Day, she visited old pilots. She died in 1982. At her funeral were 50 former pilots. All were in tears. Polina Gelman, 1919 to 2005. Polina flew 860 missions. After the war, she became an engineer. She worked on the space program. She was on duty during Yuri Gagarin's flight, but no one knew she was a night witch. In the 2000s, she gave an interview for a documentary. She told young generations, "Courage is more important than talent." We weren't talented, but we were courageous. 588th Night Bomber Regiment. Night Witches. Nachthexen. 23,672 missions. 30,000 tons of bombs. 3,000 German soldiers killed. 30 heroes of the Soviet Union. 32 martyrs. But most importantly, they proved women can fight. Women can be heroes. Women can change history. In 1941, Stalin had asked, "Can women fight?" The 588th Regiment answered, "Give us a chance, we'll show you." And they showed. Today, women around the world are fighting. Pilots, soldiers, commanders. The 588th Regiment showed them the way. But one question remains. If history could forget the 588th Regiment for 50 years, how many heroic women are we forgetting right now? Think about this question, because history records not only what is written, but also what is remembered.